Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Council meeting of Wednesday, the 3rd of April. Welcome to the councillors, staff, members of the public, either in the gallery or at home. And I'll call for apologies, and I have one from Councillor Mackle. Can we move in a second of that apology? Councillor Todd, Councillor Brown, all in favour, please say aye. Carried. Extraordinary business. Any items of extraordinary business for consideration today's meeting? I know of none. No. Declarations of interest on the matters on today's agenda? None. Confirmation of the minutes. And we have them on page 3. We're looking for accuracy of these or not. Page 3, any alterations or additions? Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. So take a mover that we receive those minutes as true and accurate. Phil and Liz moved, Councillor McMillan, seconded Councillor Hooper. All those in favour, please say aye. Gets carried. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, and we have the Road Safety Coordinating Committee minutes there. We'll receive them. Councillor McMillan moved. Councillor Wilson seconded. We'll take them first, receive them, and then you can talk to them. If you're seconding, all those in favour, please say aye. Gets carried. Councillor Wilson.
Oh, sorry.
So, I was present at the meeting. I just see I'm not present, but
okay, so we'll add your name to the people present. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. And just to make a comment that a letter or email was sent on behalf of the Mayor, and I think I also signed it as well as the Chair of the Road Safety Coordinating Committee to the Minister, just expressing our concerns, especially more about the State Highway 77 with the that speed is sort of being lost in transit, I suppose.
Yep, it's gone. So it's gone to the Minister of Transport. Yep, signed by yourself and as Chair of the and me as Mayor. Another item out of there was around the median strips that we have on mainly the highways really, and how people don't know how to use them. So we asked for a publicity campaign to educate the drivers on how median strips are supposed to work, because we have a few of them in the district, especially when joining the highways, and when it's busy, there is a preferred method on how you do it. So that will be underway. Next item is item number 6, endorsement of Carters Creek Catchment Group submission to ECAN, and have Janine Holland here. Janine, you're more than welcome to come up. Willie was coming too, Oh, if Willie's having coffee, he may miss his presentation. Okay, correct. We are slightly ahead, so we will allow Willie to get his coffee, and we'll move ahead to item number 7, which is Environment Canterbury's draft long-term plan 2434 submission. Plenty of time, Janine, plenty of time. Welcome, Funke, Mark and Tony. Tabia, sorry. That was close. Councillor City, anything further to add to your report? Let's push your light, put your light on.
Nothing further to add. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, councillors? I've read the submission booklet they put out, the summary. I find it a very difficult document to read. I don't know what you found of it. It doesn't give me good guidance on what Environment Canterbury want to do. especially for the Ashburton district. I see in there there's a Ashburton's going to get a 24% rate rise, I think, on average. In that booklet, I can't see where that money is being spent in Ashburton. I can't see that. There's the larger long-term plan draft document. I presume it's somewhere in there, and I haven't had the opportunity to read that yet. It's 300-something pages, so it will take some time. Yeah, so I'm just struggling with that draft document, the summary document that they have, and I'm probably someone who's a bit more educated than the normal person, the general public, on reading those documents, and I'm struggling of their document. How did you find it?
Yeah. So, through the chair, the observation is not very wrong. It has a very high-level document in a way. It summarizes options, but and in order to prepare the submission, we had to go back to the draft long-term plan and see what specifically has been said about our own district. So, yeah, so you have to read both together to better understand it.
Looking at our summary document, it gives you more information as what is in a perhaps not quite so high level, but at a high level, you know where your money is going. And if you want more information on top of what's given, you could go to the actual document and give you more. This document, in my view, does not do that at all. It's not your fault. It's my interpretation of it. But, got questions here, Councillor Lovett.
That's where I was coming from on the 24% increase. We're going to get, I was looking to see what we were going to get for it, but we should have, why didn't we sort of have a wee comment there that within the current economic times, it is a huge cost on ratepayers, because we aren't, I think we generally aren't happy with the 24%. They need to look at their internal cost, should they? You know, it was just a comment around it, about the economic times. Why didn't we sort of make a, just...
So in the submission, you could put in that 24% increase is too high for our current economic times? Or it's probably already in there.
Thank you. Through the chair, we did have quite an internal debate about this. So the ECAN draft long-term plan is looking to improve and do more work in this district than what they have currently done in the past. And probably the area that you will see that the most is in and around that flood protection and the river types of work. So while we thought we could have a crack, to be quite blunt, at the percentage increase, we thought it was actually probably better to discuss what we liked about the work that was being programmed and projected for our district and our community, because we have been calling on the extra work to be being done, particularly after the May 21 flood. But we did make the point in point 4 that we too, as a council, have had to make some difficult prioritisation choices, and it's a difficult time to prepare a budget for 10 years.
Councillor Cameron?
I note that we are being rated in Ashburton Urban for the catchment works and services, and I note that I don't think they've been undertaken yet with regards to ECAN. Can we ask in this document for ECAN to report back on work undertaken and milestones met? It seems to be a one-way document. Take the money, this is a question, do what you're doing, but we're not asking them for have you achieved this, this and this. And I remember last week asking with regards to emergency management when we had a meeting, has the work been undertaken in the river to mitigate the flooding risk for people down Racecourse Road and washing into town? And we didn't know the answer. If ECAN feed us back as to are they meeting these goals, would we not have a better idea as to how protected or unprotected we are?
Yes, I think that can easily be achieved, and we know that the chair of ECAN willingly comes to address issues to council, so I can see that there'll be no problem in having an increased information flow.
Thank you. I would like to suggest that in a formal way so that they are obliged, if they're collecting, how much do they collect from the Ashburton district for rates for ECAN? I mean, from me, I can look up now what I'm paying, but from the district as a whole, it would be millions, I'm guessing.
I don't have that answer
You know that
directly,
answer,
I'm sorry.
No, I don't, but we could find
I don't
ask.
need to know the answer, but they need to have some accountability for that money, in my view.
As every council does. Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Through the chair, just a question on page 21 under Mount Summers. Should we be putting a timeline on that work? Because I know it's quite urgent from when I've been up there. Is it worth putting a timeline for that work at Mount Summers?
In my understanding, our investigation on council's side is almost concluded, so maybe we can talk to assets manager and investigate more about if we can put a timeline on it.
Thank you. And another question, if I
Yep.
can. Page 22, number 35. I'm really pleased that that comment has been made. And 36. Has this been discussed by anyone? I haven't seen this ever mentioned before about daily Ashburton to Timaru, Ashburton to Christchurch public transport system. I haven't seen that mentioned anywhere. Is that? Just wondering where it had come from. Good idea.
It's not mentioned in their current draft plan, but in the previous submission that we have made to ECAN on their public transport system, this is the request we have made previously. And when I was preparing this submission this time, so I asked, do you want to include this, continue including it? So it was the officers or my manager said that we should continue with it. Thank you.
You want to continue with that? So we've asked that before in previous submissions. What has the response back from ECAN been on that?
I don't know we've had any response to it, to be perfectly honest, in the past. So I guess it's how much pressure you want to put on around that option.
We also submit on the UAGC every time about lifting it. And what response do we have back specifically to that question from Environment Canterbury on our submission on the UAGC? I think the response is the same. None.
Yes, you are correct. They've never come back and answered why they have or have not chosen to take our advice on board.
So I will be presenting this submission in person, and I will be asking those questions of the councillors, that we need a response back to our submission that is in perspective to our submission, not the general letter that gets sent out, to make it meaningful for us and for any other submitter. But we do that for our submitters. They get responses personalised. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Mayor, I agree with you that they need to use appropriate use of the UAGC for, we've put biosecurity and biodiversity, I think it is, down, and that I fully endorse that. I also like to discuss the bus funding. If I look at the bus and I go to the ECAN website that talks about their revenue gained from buses, it has the Ashburton rural with a 4.76 million value, which is the standard value used, is going to pay $147 a year towards buses. And I'm trying to understand where that number comes from and what, as a district we're getting for it. Because I think it comes out of the general rate rather than the actual charge. So I look at Ashburton, Christchurch Urban is $337 and Ashburton Rural is $147. I'm trying to understand what that charge is for and how we would be gaining any benefit with not many buses in Ashburton Rural.
Thank you. Through the chair, we'll go away and have a look, but potentially it could be the funding that ECAN's receiving for the Community Vehicle Trust and the Total Mobility Scheme. I'll have to go away and double check how they are funded, but that could be how that is falling into the rural rate.
It could be further to the submission on Councillor Wilson's line he's on. is a rural property pays $147 but does not get a service, and someone in Christchurch City who gets a bigger service pays, was it $300 and something? How is that equitable? That's probably the question. Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. There's a lot of talk in here about flood protection, which is great, but at the moment we're in drought conditions. What's ECAN's role when that's happening around consents and people being able to keep their livelihood and things like that? There's very little talk around drought conditions, fire risk and all those when they happen, and that flip side of climate change to where we're at the moment.
I mean, I guess they're just working to their own consent conditions and the consents that they've applied across the district. In terms of a drought situation, obviously that doesn't necessarily apply. So yeah, I'm not totally sure what their role is in that area, apart from, I guess, monitoring the state of the environment in that context.
Just a couple of questions. So bullet point 20, Council supports Environment Canterbury role in pest management, which leads to preservation of natural and indigenous environments. What pest management do they do here at the moment? And there's also a comment there, draw the attention to the recent sightings of wallaby in the Ashburton district. Is that statement true?
Thank you. Yes, the statement about the wallaby in the Ashburton district is true.
Was that the one that was lying on the side of the road, dead?
I don't know the specific one, but it has come from DOC that they have cited in the district.
Okay.
And with regard to your earlier question about the role they have in pest management, I'm not sure if Wilding Pines falls under that, but I know that they do have some work underway in that space up in the Ashburton Lakes. Otherwise I'd have to go away and find out.
Yeah, okay, that'll be fine. I'm not sure what they do there. Bullet point 23, Council supports increased investment to improve consent delivery timeframes, and which is fine. Why is the ratepayer paying for that? Because I was on the understanding that someone who applies for a consent pays for the consent, not the ratepayer.
I think we're just supporting the increased investment that ECAN must make. If they then charge it on to the consent applicant, that's fine. But we acknowledge that in order to improve the delivery timeframes, they may well need to increase resource.
I presume the general ratepayer pays the fines they pay for not having consents put out within the prescribed timeline.
I imagine so, yes.
Yeah. So there's something they could work on, and I think they probably are trying to address that. Councillor Cameron?
Just an administrative question. Are we going to see the report back after these modifications before it is submitted?
Yes.
In terms of the response to the submissions, you mean?
Yes, the Mayor suggested something, and I've suggested that we want feedback on the progress with regards to our key projects.
Yes.
Are we going to see that in the submission before you send the submission away?
I wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't, or you would?
I wouldn't. Would not.
What, is time too short?
Timing, I think when's it due? Next week.
Due the 14th of April.
14th.
We'll circulate it as soon as it's done, but there's a lot on for our team at the moment with our own LTP consultation. So we will circulate it.
That would be great, because
at the time, so you'll see it, but I doubt that we'll have a chance for a further round of editing.
Because it's quite difficult for us, to the Chief Executive, to comment on ECAN's performance or lack thereof unless we know what we've requested them to do. So as long as we can see it,
Perfect.
so that we know that we've requested them to do, and then we can hold them to account through here.
Yep, you'll certainly circulate it to you.
Thank you.
Just before I go to Councillor Hooper, number 32 starts with Council urges ECAN to review the river catchments are rated for and funded. I think we could change the word urges to Council wants ECAN to review. We're not urging, we demand they review them. Give a clear sense of direction. We're not we're wanting that to happen. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. Your mind follows on for that about wording, and also Liz talking about timelines. The Ashburton River Consent Review and Lake Hood Water Quality. Consider allocating funding towards reviewing the appropriateness. Is that sort of urgent enough and the right wording? I mean, we've seen the consequences.
Thank you. Through the chair, if you'd like us to firm this up, you tell us what you want us to say and we can make it happen. This is your submission as a council.
Yeah, I think considering allocating funding towards reviewing the appropriateness just sounds a wee bit flowery and jump off the hook a bit.
Give us the words that direct. What clause are you on, Councillor Hooper?
13.
20.
Yeah, 20.
Yes, we understand the intent of what you say, Councillor Hooper. If the rest of the council agrees, we can certainly change to consider to we ask that he can do that work.
Yeah.
So we'll ask that they review the appropriateness of the low flow regime.
Thank you. Would you like us to ask for that to happen in year 1, year 2, year 3?
1.
Perfect.
Any further questions? We might have captured it, so we'll make those changes. There's a recommendation there that Council receives the report and that Council approves the submission to Environment Canterbury on the draft long-term plan with additions, or with, what's the wording there, with alterations. Yeah. And you'll email it out to us once it's done for our perusal. Councillor Cameron?
I'd like to move that recommendation, please.
Second. Councillor Brown.
Thank you.
Open for debate. Councillor Wilson.
Yep, I'd just like to make the comment that ECAN is loading a lot of the costs back onto, you could say, users, and Ashburton district is facing quite a large increase, and a lot of that is for, I would call it common good things, like protecting the Ashburton River is something the whole district, whole country, all of Canterbury benefits from, not just the district. So that's why our rates are going up a lot. And I think we need to recognise that a lot of money's been taken out of our district, and we hope the services come back. It's not just sucked up into Christchurch and lost in the ivory towers.
Yeah, we are contributing a reasonable amount of dollars to the Environment Canterbury. We want to see some action now. We've had the floods of 2021 where the damage was done. We now want to see some action happening in our rivers to protect the towns and the countryside. As the plan suggests, we need our consents on time to promote economic development. So we'll send that message along with this consent that this submission that we need to see some action. No further speakers for or against. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. We'll now go back to item number 6. Welcome Janine Holland, Willie Lifink. Please come forward. And we have your submission, which is going to go to Environment Canterbury, and you're asking us to endorse it. So you can speak to us. You've got 5 minutes if you'd like to give us some more information. We have your submission here.
Thank you for having the opportunity to speak to you. We're looking for your support, and in a letter we has been given that support already, but also we like to ask you to make your own submission in favour of the flood investigation into Carter's Creek, and if possible bringing the project forward to the 25-26 year, so that we don't have to endure more flooding in Tynwald that we pretty much endure every second year now.
Thanks, Willie. And we have in our submission, which we just discussed,
Yep.
something in there about the Carter's Creek, but it's not talking about 25, 26 year in our submission. So I'm not sure that we need to change that or not. It's got 27 to 29 in our submission.
Yeah, that's what, can I just clarify? That's where the river engineers have placed it at the moment. That's because this project was one of the last to be added to ECAN's LTP in August last year in the river engineering side. Even though it's a Johnny-come-lately in terms of their list, we want to obviously commence it earlier. It's not just about the Tynwald community, it's about Lakehood as well. It's the water quality issues that Carter's Creek is contributing. We've got two other organisations as well who are happy to be represented in this letter, being the Lakehood Extension Trust and the Ashburton Aquatic Park Charitable Trust. So we've got a number of entities who are very supportive, and Willie and other catchment group members have been out door knocking and have over 100 submissions already, which is fantastic. Still 10 days to go. So that's a really mobilised community, Tynwald and Lakehood, who are supporting this project going ahead.
Yep.
That's well done.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, our own comment in our own submission acknowledges and supports the expenditure and does ask that it be brought forward in the long-term plan. So while it's currently programmed for 27 to 29 and then the CapEx in 28 to 30, we have asked that it be brought forward. We haven't specified year one, and we could put that addition in our own submission if that was council as well.
Can I encourage you to be more specific, as we have a bit of a tendency that ECAN seems to put things on the long term rather than the short term?
Yeah. So the council can consider that addition to our own submission if we got that direction from you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, which we just did was moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor Brown. If they move in the second, we're happy for that addition to be put in, and council was, then
Yes,
I think
I'm
we could.
happy.
You're happy, mover and seconder. Councillors General, happy for that to be put in as year one of our submission to align with your submission. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Carry on.
So I have not much more to add. You know, it's we can go into details what we desire, but it's also we in the meantime we're going to work ourselves on the creek and make it flow better with working bees. But yeah, we can't do much about street crossings and you know big civil works that you know ECAN wants to undertake.
Okay, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm just thinking, have we seen, and this is probably a question for the Chief Executive, have we seen the NIWA report on Lakehood water management?
It came in at the very end of last week. We're currently assessing it.
Oh, so we have not seen that?
No.
No, because I see in here the phosphate. I understand that phosphate is coming out of the bottom of the water from the lake. You know, that's where it comes from.
It's both recycling and fresh new phosphates are added through, you know, particularly the Tynwald corridor. State Highway 1 is quite a contributor to the phosphates available in the water.
And you have seen the report?
No, the report has not. I asked yesterday. It's not been released yet.
Okay.
We're still assessing it in this building.
Yeah. So that would then. Okay. Thank you.
Further questions of our guests, Councillor Lovett?
The Legmore Creek, where does it join in? Does it join onto Carter's Creek, or does it come in separately? The Legmore.
Sorry, I don't have your question.
The Legmore Creek, because you're doing that's also covered. So does that join in with the other creeks?
Carter's Creek joins Legmore Creek joins Carter's Creek below the lake, but it's a you know it suffers from the same sort of urbanization of Tynwald, which creates a lot of concrete and roof surface that creates a lot of runoff water, which we only just came to light this last week that there is a lot of runoff on the street below Wilkins Road, that stormwater that we didn't even know about Yeah, so there's a lot of stormwater coming into Carters Creek.
And it would be covered in this flood investigation project, which is what the river engineers have determined. That's a good corridor to look at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hamish?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, the NIWA report, of course, it's not being assessed by the council, it's being assessed by the Water Task Force, of which council is a part of. So that task force is having a look at that NIWA report rather than council itself.
Yeah.
May I ask? Will we get to see that report, the councillors, as part of the? Okay, thank you.
When do you think that might be?
Well, the task force, as I understand, perhaps Mr. McCann can answer the timeframes more specifically than I.
The task force is looking at having a meeting either later this week or early next week to review the report, and following that we'll look at releasing it. Yep.
Further questions? Thanks, Richard. Councillor Wilson.
Can you explain to us how the Carters Creek Catchment Group is funded? Because this is a very good submission, and just what resources you've got at your fingertips, or how do you do it?
Currently, our funding sources is we had a $15,000 grant from the zone committee to investigate particularly pollution from Carters Creek into, like mainly E. coli, phosphates, that sort of stuff, water quality issues. Then ECAN itself decided to fund all that research. Then we asked for Reef submitted to use the funding for something like the management of the Carters Creek Group, and also whether we could use it for a landscape plan to turn the Carters Creek into an asset rather than a problem.
But I think what you're also asking, Councillor Wilson, is the catchment group is one of 9 that the Mid-Canterbury Catchment Collective are supporting, and they do that by funding a facilitator, which in this case is me, and they provide the resources and the research and the other backup.
Yep.
So we're just one of 9 operating in the district in the last 2 years since the Mid-Canterbury Catchment Collective has been operating.
Yeah, so nobody's getting paid other than Janine for her time that she works on the Carters Creek project.
No further questions. Thank you, Janine or Willie. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now we'll discuss the recommendation there, whether we endorse that submission. Tony, welcome back. Mark, Tayaba. Anything further to add?
No, nothing further to add.
Okay.
Happy to answer questions.
Questions, councillors? No questions. There's a recommendation there that council endorses Carters Creek Catchment Group submission to ECAN's draft long-term plan 24 to 34. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I'd like to move that.
Thank you.
Move to second. We'll speak to the motion. No. Councillor Lovett.
I'm just pleased that we've got an action plan here, and it desperately needs cleaning up, and for the lake residents and all the users, we've got to get onto it and do something, and I'm pleased we're starting to get the ball rolling now, and hopefully we'll see some results.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. Speak in favour, and I think it's great for us to endorse the hard work that the group's been doing.
Councillor Wilson.
I endorse it. It leads to the previous discussion we had on ECAN's rate increase. This, I would have thought, is their business as usual work they should be doing, because it is one of their creeks. So I just hope they do their job and carry on with it.
Further speakers for or against? Right to reply.
I think it looks like we're all in support of this. I'm hoping we all are. It's a good submission, and I think that if council can show our support as well, it may have a little bit more weight. But I'm hoping that this gets looked at by ECAN when they do their long-term plan.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item was Kiwi Rail, and Alan Piper, welcome. Alan's the Executive General Manager Sales and Commercial at Kiwi Rail. And Alan's been instrumental in getting the rail yard out of the middle of Ashburton to the northeast. And we thank you for that. Your part you have played, which is great. That project's coming to a conclusion very soon, with an opening coming in the next couple of weeks, which will also be great. So hand over to you, Alan. You've got a PowerPoint presentation for us.
Kia ora, Alan Piper, as I said, EGM Freight Markets at Kiwi Rail. So I'm based in Auckland. Apologies for that. Yes, lead pretty much freight revenue for Kiwi Rail, so anything that runs on our network, as well as trucks on Inter-Islander. So look, today I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of where we're at. We're getting pretty close to running trains in the new Fairfield Freight Hub, and so just a handful of talk to slides, and I'm happy to take any questions. So really just wanted to cover off two things. One, just again a bit of a recap on the intermodal freight hub and what it's all about, and then just changes to transport patterns in and around the township. This is probably a few weeks old now, but it's the latest drone shot that we have. So it really just shows what's been developed in Works Road there, and you'll all know better than me, the Silver Ferns Fairton Freezing Works closed down, repurposed, purchased by other commercial interests, and then and this has been developed, and it's been almost 4 years in the genesis to where we are today. So we'll actually start putting rail wagons in tomorrow, and as we gear up, so we'll do our first shunt in preparation for next week. But we'll start running services in and out of the Fairfield Freight Hub from Monday the 8th of April. I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the support of Council. I don't think this project would be where it's at today without the Council's support, so just a big thank you for that. And in terms of what it's going to deliver for the region, well, we have capacity just in the main street there for around about 6,000 containers in total through the site. This gives us a growth pathway in the near term of 20,000, so it's quite a big increase. And when you think about what does that mean, it's about efficiency, it's about carbon, and it's about trucks off road, which then is about road safety and then the avoided cost of running stuff on state highways. So we think there's a really it's a really great story in terms of government funding, local body, Kiwi Rail, private, all coming together to make something happen. So we're pretty excited. We've got the official opening on the 19th, which you'll all know about, and I hope many of you will get along. I believe there's some maybe a cup of tea and a couple of sandwiches and a few speeches, and it should be good. But if I talk about intermodal hubs in general, they all take on a slightly different design around the country, and it's all premised by what the freight task is. So the freight task in this region is a lot of horticulture moving up, not only for export but into the North Island, and so it really is a powerhouse in terms of the sort of freight task that's going to flow through. In terms of some short-term changes, we've got in terms of a lot of the work that's being done, we are looking, well, we will connect this to National Train Control. What that means is that trains just come in and out automatically. It's done centrally, but like the bells and barrier arms automatically recognising trains coming and all that sort of thing. That installation is still 4 or 5 months away, and so what it means is that at Fairfield Road there, we will have some delays of about 10 minutes 2 or 3 times a day as we bring trains in. So that'll be a very short-term impact for us. What it does mean is that once we get that running, it's all automated, it's seamless, and what will be up to 10 minutes will become literally a minute as trains come through and place into the siding. We've given an indication of the times that we'll be undertaking that work, and just to give the council some assurance, we're doing a lot in terms of traffic safety, just engaging with schools, particularly the Fairfield Primary, just to let people know and kids know that, hey, they can expect to see trains in the region again and what's happening. And so we've had locomotive engineers in the schools and really talking about trains and really engaging. In terms of, and I'll come to the centre of town in a moment, but we're doing everything we can to just engage with the community to let them know there's some change happening. In terms of town, you know, as a result of moving the hub, well, first of all, I know, and Hamish and I had, the Chief Executive had a number of conversations around an old goods shed that was in the outskirts of town that was tagged in a bit of an eyesore, and yeah, really great to see that go. What we don't want to see happen is that we leave what's at the ground and then have that subject to, you know, tagging and everything else that young kids get up to. So we want to leave what we've got in good state, and so we're working on that at the moment. Just bear with us. In terms of the trains running through town, so rather than the shunting, which I know is delayed, it's called crossing delays, etc. in town. That will be a very, very rare occurrence that we need to do that. What it means that trains will be coming through at increased speeds and up to 70 k's. So typically freight on our network runs up to 80 kilometres an hour through town, just because of there's a couple of curves, etc. We'll be restricting that. It'll be at 70 kilometres. So you will see trains moving through at a greater speed. The safety notice there is what's already up at the pedestrian crossings. So again, we're doing everything to just let people know that things are about to change. And I know we've got a little bit of local press as well, so you know, we're really trying to increase the message. So that's short and sweet, but I was happy to take any questions. And again, just to thank you for your support.
Thanks, Alan. That's a great overview of what's happened and we've got to, and a great project. We're happy to be involved as part of the partners as catalysts to get this whole thing done. So we're pleased we were there. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. It's probably a question that's on all of our lips. With the increased speed in town, do you think there's a couple of pedestrian crossings that I'm concerned about. Do you think there's flashing lights, barrier arms need at all for those?
I don't have a position on that, other than I'm happy to take that away and you know, talk with the signal teams and the track teams around what their position on that is. So look, I don't have an immediate answer for you, other than it's a fair question.
I'm just concerned about habits.
Yes. And that's, I think, the key thing is educating. Is that education that you are going to see trains moving through town, possibly at a higher speed.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you for your presentation. We've just been talking about our climate change policy and all that earlier today. With regards to getting up to the 20,000 containers, what is the ETA for that growth? Like, how fast will you be gearing up to that?
Yeah, so we've forecast that over a 4-year period. Talking to Mark Waring from Rural Transport, the Warings Group today, we think year one could be over 10,000.
Wow.
So we're on quite a steep growth path. You said the onions is looking a bit of a funny season this year. So, you know, like commodities, you have good years and bad years.
Course, yeah.
But we see the growth really positively. And if it's 10,000 in the first year, we'll be delighted.
Okay, thank you. And may I ask one more question that might be a little bit off topic?
Sure.
You talk about leaving the siding in town in a decent state.
Yep.
Have you driven past that today?
Yes.
Yeah. What does a decent state mean?
So you've got there's a seed company there, I forget the name of them, that have got the silo that needs to go. We've got some containers on the ground they need to go, and there's also a prefab that needs to be removed. So there's just that, what I would say, the visual, if they stay there, they'll become eyesores. So those need to be removed, and then obviously we are now looking to what are the alternative uses of that land. Is most likely to be a commercial lease, some sort of business development or something.
Oh, so that land would be used for, that's anticipated?
It won't be used for rail purposes. We'll look to, there'll be a commercial alternative use for it. I can't predict what that will be at this point.
Will you discuss that with us, or would that be a Kiwi Rail?
It would be within whatever the commercial requirements are, the bylaws,
Okay, sure.
etc.
Can I just ask one more question through the chair? We have a heritage listed building, bridge going over the over rail in Ashburton. It's a pedestrian bridge, and that has a local heritage sort of mark on a grade, if you like. And we have approached Kiwi Rail for funding to preserve that bridge. Preserve it. It needs cleaning and a little bit of strengthening. It's getting a little bit old, and we don't want it to deteriorate too much. We were told initially that there was a grant available for people to do that, and then we've been told that subsequently that there isn't one. Do you think there's any opportunity? Can we go to another department, or is there any other way of getting some money to preserve that rail bridge?
It's actually the first time I was aware that I've seen the pedestrian bridge you're talking to. It was the first I was aware that was an issue. I'm happy to take that away. We do get grant funding. I just don't know how that's been allocated. So can perhaps we treat that as an action item for me to...
I'd be very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
And just through Mr Mayor, previous conversations have been with Mark Hazenbuttle about that. So while it's known to Kiwi Rail, I acknowledge that it's probably not known to you personally.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to take that personally as a action. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Ellen, just following on from Phil, if I go through town in my car or truck, it's 30 k's or 50 k's, and even that is fast enough. So how can 70 k's for trains going through town being safe? I mean, with a car I can stop pretty quick. A train takes quite a wee bit more to stop. So why is it 70 k's and not 50?
There's lots of reasons for it. We run a network. We do have the appropriate barrier crossings and lights, etc., appropriate to the risk in terms of barriers and crossings across the whole network. It would just be, we typically run, once you start slowing down trains and then starting them up again, there's braking, it's fuel, etc. So they tend to just coast through at that speed. As we appreciate, trains don't slow down easily and quickly. That will be typical of our network throughout the country. So there's nothing atypical about what we're doing here versus anywhere else in the country in terms of slowing down.
Okay. Another question. The Tynwald site, it goes all the way to Tynwald as well, along the main highway. All the fences have been taken out. I noticed that there's a green path through it. Then we've got the railway, and the other side is green as well. There's nothing to stop children or people to go over there and get to the other side. There's no barriers.
Yeah, I'm from Auckland, so I don't know Tynwald, but I'm happy to go and jump in the car and have a look after this.
Maybe it's going to be replaced, but I mean, there's nothing there except the new crossing we've got in Tynwald. That is quite safe, but I can go on my bike just over the...
Yeah, we could fence the entire network. That would be billions of dollars. It's not something that we would do. However, I'm sympathetic to your question. I'd need to go and have a look at it to understand what's happened and what's been removed and why. And
thank you.
Helen, just to follow up that question of 70 kilometres through town, have you got other towns, similar size, whatever, where trains go through now at 70 kilometres?
Yeah, Tikawiti, Tamanui, Tikawiti, they're probably a bit smaller. Auckland runs at 80 to 100 k's. You've got Hamilton runs the same. It's not an unusual speed. We run up to 80 k's, and then our passenger, the tourism trains, run up to 100 kilometres, as an example.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
It's further to Councillor Lovett's discussion around what you're going to do with the land, because it's taken, I probably would say, 100 years to get the trains out of town to an appropriate site. And we don't want that to suddenly be turned into another worse commercial activity. So, we would like to think that KiwiRail's cognizant of what the town does with the rest of the sites you have. We mow it and we look after it. We just don't want that site to turn into another eyesore effectively.
Sure. I would disagree that it's been 100 years since you've asked us to move out of town. It might be 15 to 20, but you look a little bit older than me. You might recall. So it's just a joke, Councillor. Look,
take it as such.
Look, we obviously one of the one of the thoughts from us was that we have put capital in towards the new intermodal hub. We've invested capital, and one of the premises was there that it does have an alternative commercial use, and it will be a commercial property. I just can't tell you what it will be. What it won't be is a scrap metal dealer or a used tyre depot or anything like that. We've seen those bad press stories in the past, but in terms of what goes in I can't tell you, other than the property team are now looking at what those, and it always is based on what's the best commercial value return that Kiwi Rail can generate from that. I'm sorry, I can't be more definitive than that.
We respect that. I think council need to take comfort from our district plan. So the scale or the type of development on any piece of land in the district, and this one being the same, the district plan will dictate the sort of development that can occur there. Council wouldn't have any other role in terms of dictating what is or isn't an appropriate use of private land.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Hi, Alan. I've got another sort of wee question to ask. Council have some space in our domain, Ashburton domain, that we've put aside to build a bike skills park, and there's a group of sort of service clubs who are looking at funding that. One of the requests from some of the service clubs was that we would have a railway crossing in there, so that when the children are learning to their road rules, etc., on their bikes, that it will become normal for them to stop and wait for trains, etc. Do you support any of those sorts of projects? My ears pricked up when you said you do have a little bit of funding available. Do you support any of projects like that, or have you done?
I don't know is the short answer. In terms of the funding piece, I think I might have been misquoted when I said there might be a bit of budget. Typically when we look to, we're very, very careful when we increase the number of crossings on the network, because crossings drives risk, and you only have to look in Tauranga recently, and I think this is goes back to one of the earlier questions as well, where we had an unfortunate incident where a young schoolgirl just went around barrier arms and across the rail line and was hit unfortunately by a train. So we're very, very quite risk averse and quite cautious as we look at those sorts of things. It's not to say it isn't possible, because there are plenty of crossings. I just don't have I can't give you a definitive response other than I'm happy to take it away as an action item and engage with the club in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So
it would be on a separate space. It wouldn't be near the railway line. We would just have. So it's a little bike.
Okay. So you just
little bike skills park where children are learning to ride their bike and adhere to the road rules. So there'll be stop signs, give way signs, pedestrian crossings, and we're hoping to get a rail crossing in. So because we know that there's so many children around here that come across that daily. No,
I misheard your question. So look, I think that's achievable. It's just really, it would be some old sleepers and some old rail is effectively what you'd be asking for.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that could be provided. If you get down quick to down the road, you might get some.
We did think that.
Perhaps in the weekend under the cloak of darkness. So look, that's easily doable. As you know, we are, the government's investing lots of money and reinvesting in rail upgrades. So we do have surplus sleepers that and old sleepers and some rail that could be purposed. We'd probably just want to make sure that we're setting it up so that it looks and feels authentic. I think if we were just putting in some old sleepers and rail and say, there you go, cross that, all we're doing is teaching kids that you can cross a railway line when you want to, and that's not necessarily what we'd advocate.
Yes, we're hoping for an arm barrier or of some sort, so that it was sort of as realistic as possible.
Sure.
Yep. We'll be in touch.
Councillor Todd.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. You alluded to automated signal install, and there's been a delay in getting that part done. When you have a end date project, why are sometimes these things delayed? Like there's already been 2 other projects in town with rail crossings where there's been parts of it delayed because things weren't ordered early enough. My little pea brain here, when you have an end date, why can't things be ordered earlier so you
Sure. It's not necessarily an ordering thing. That's actually not the issue. One of the it's a global issue at the moment around signal, people that can do signal design. There is so much rail infrastructure upgrades going globally that if you are a signals engineer, you are a very prized and valuable resource, and we just don't have enough. So, and so we're having to wait in a queue in terms of a work bank. And so you've got stuff going on in Auckland, the City Rail Link, you've got projects like this. We've had Ruakura, we've opened a Ruakura Inland Port, and that's been 12 months waiting for the final stuff to go in, so we have to come in with manual workarounds. This is at the top of the work bank, it's just that there is a slight delay. So it's definitely a people resource issue, and it's a global phenomenon.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and just thank you for the end result of this project. It's sort of been a long time in the coming, but good things are worth waiting for, so it's fantastic. As Councillor Cameron touched on before, we've been talking a lot today about climate change, and is that a risk for you? I mean, which then becomes a risk for us with the new hub as you move south and north, with some of the locations of some of your tracks could be affected quite adversely by climate change, with how close they get to the coast in certain places, and then that has a flow-on impact for movements and things.
That's a fair question. I'll answer it. I'll do two responses. First of all, landside over distance is the most carbon efficient way of moving freight around the country, so people and freight. And I'm not talking about a courier van or something heading as the short mile delivery. So we all know that it's 2/3 more fuel efficient, it's more carbon efficient, etc. So it is the way to go, and we just want to play a bigger role in that freight task nationally. Specifically to your the second point, yes, we do have some areas of coastal erosion. Last week I was in Oamaru, and we've got a siding there which has been, the sea is encroaching. And unless we're prepared to spend tens of millions of dollars, we're not going to slow down nature. We've also got similar challenges in the Buller Gorge on the west coast, where we've got increased rainfall, and that's causing more frequent slips, which are impacting the line. So I think we accept that there's climate change, and there are areas of our network where we are seeing that, and then we're having to think about, well, what do we do? What do we do next? And do we fight nature? Do we move? Do we relocate? So we're going through those as pragmatically as we can. There's just a couple of examples off the top of my head.
Thank you. Question for myself, Ellen. If you go up to 20,000 containers a year, which is the goal, well, that's great. Will that mean more trains on the road, on the line?
Not at this point. So we run. I'm feeling like I'm at a select committee. I'm in Parliament.
Very similar.
Starting to sweat. The short answer is not today. We have between 4 and 5 trains a day that we run between Christchurch and Invercargill, up to between 4 and 5, just depending on the season and the demand. All we are doing. So if I go back in time 4 years ago, one of the great things, but a blessing and a burden in this part of the country, is it's long and flat, and so we can make long trains. So to start a new train of say 10 or 20 wagons, when you think about the $5, $6, $7 million asset at the front of the train being the locomotive, and then $250,000 wagon, every wagon is around about $250,000. You run a 50 wagon train and you're already at sort of $20 million of capital. That's what you've invested and then you've got the running costs, etc. So it was very expensive to just start a new train and run it to Ashburton and back. And I'm sort of making a long story of this, Mr. Mayor, but so what we are looking to do is the way that we're able to make it commercially viable for the region is to say, well, we're just going to piggyback trains that are going through. And so we're just like putting a pallet on the back of a truck, or we're just putting 15 or 16 wagons on the back of a train that's already got a sizable volume. So we can add wagons to the back of existing services going north and south, and then if the volumes get to a point where there's demand there for a 6th train, well then that's when we will work to put on that train, and or we might run 6 days or 7 days. So I'm giving a long answer, but that's how we look at it commercially.
Right. Thank you for that. Councillor Lovett.
There was a program of renewing a whole lot of shunters, of buying them in. Have they, you know, you don't really see really new ones on the lines. Are they in the country or still coming?
Sorry, the
new engines.
Oh, sure, yeah. So we've got what we call the DX locos that were built in the 70s, and we've almost at a point now where we don't maintain these things, we restore them. It's a bit of a restoration thing with the locomotives. This year we have 2 what we call DM class locomotives, prototypes coming into the country, and that will be followed quickly by another, I think it's 57 in total. So towards the end of next year we'll have 57 new locos in the South Island, and you will see they're twin cabbed, so a cab either end. What that means is that when we run into a siding, that we can reverse out, so that the locomotive engineer can just climb down one and then jump around the other end of the train, and then he's got forward view, he or she's got forward view from either way, which is efficient for us as well. So you'll see those running on the network probably from April, May next year. We'll start running them on the network, and they'll be more and more prevalent, and then we retire the older locomotive fleet.
Thank you, Alan. There's no more questions. It was good Q&A, I think. It was very good.
I
Thanks
feel like I've had a question from everybody. Yeah,
I think you
is
did,
there
which is
anyone I've missed?
Which is a good side to show your popularity. But thanks once again for coming here, and also for the partnership we've had to get the rail yard where it is. And we're looking forward to seeing you again with Minister Brown on the 19th of April for the official opening, and we've been looking forward to that for a few years, as you probably have too. So
yeah, as I've long said, you've long time wanted to run us out of Dodge, and here you got your chance. Yeah, but so we're doing it in a friendly way, and look, it's such a privilege to be here, and just to reinforce the support from council has been much appreciated. We're in this together.
Yeah, it's great. So we'll cut the ribbon, then have a sausage roll afterwards. So it'll be
on Mark. That'll be good.
Yeah,
great.
On Mark. Yeah, that makes it even better.
So I'm going to whip up the road and have a look at the Timwald. Is that where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the lack of fencing.
In the bridge. Do I safely walk on it, or is it okay to walk across?
This is perfectly safe.
Perfectly safe. You can own it if you wish.
Thank you very much.
So thanks very much, Alan. Councillors, next item is item number 8, which is the council representative to the Canterbury Biodiversity Strategy Review. And Tony, anything further to add?
Thank you. Nothing further to add. Hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory. We've just left it blank for you to decide as a council if you want to have a representative attend.
Yes, I've been slightly remiss in not getting around some councillors to see who would go on it, but I have been thinking about it, and it does ask for one, but I'm thinking of 2 councillors, being Councillor Braham and Councillor Wilson, who are both on the biodiversity strategy working group. Is it different? But open to suggestions. Councillor Cameron.
I think not to have a representative on this group would be disappointing. No, I haven't got. I've just got to follow on from your thing. I haven't got any question. I want to say something.
Let's debate with Councillor Lovett.
Will our biodiversity officer be involved with this group? Because I think it's important that if you had a councillor and a biodiversity officer, it would give us a good overview. Yeah.
Through the chair, I haven't checked directly with the biodiversity officer, but I can check to see their availability.
Right.
It's certainly true that ECAN are asking whether we want a elected representative at this particular meeting. That's what we're directly responding to.
Councillor Todd.
So do we get 2 seats at the table, or would it be alternated?
We've been invited to have a representative at one meeting.
Okay.
So we can turn up with 2, and there's risk to that potentially, but we've been invited to have a representative.
Further questions? Councillor McMillan? No. Thanks, Tony. We've got a recommendation there. We need 2 names, councillors. Councillor Cameron.
I think we need to have a representative on the committee, and I'd like to nominate Richard Wilson for that position, please.
Just the one, or would you like the two? You can have two if
Well,
you wish.
I definitely want one. If we can get away with two, well, we could have 10. Would more the better. But how many can we get away with?
Well, they've asked for representatives, so if we send two, when we send two representatives.
Okay, they just sort of bowl up. They're not. Yeah. Okay, happy with two. Extra. Add Councillor Brahm to my list of recommendations. Thank you, Lane. If you're comfortable to be on that? Yeah.
So, Councillor Cameron's making recommendations. Councillor Wilson and Councillor Brahm happy to be on that committee. Yep. Councillor.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I think we can send two. I go to quite a few meetings in Christchurch where there's not just one councillor. Sometimes there's another interested councillor who attends as well from those other councils. So I think having both would be a good idea.
It's moved to Councillor Cameron, seconded Councillor McMillan, with those names being Councillor Brahm and Councillor Wilson on the who we represent in council. Any further speakers for or against? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I'll speak in. I think it probably, since we've passed our biodiversity strategy now, we've actually got quite strong direction when we go to that as well. So we're in quite a good position to represent our community in our district.
Yep. Need a right to reply, Councillor Cameron?
No, I don't. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. Item number 9, financial reports. Erin, at the end. Reports in front of us. We'll go page by page, starting on page 3. Well, the stellar numbers, 34 and 35. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the deferred in commercial property, the economic development paragraph. Page 3.
33, yeah.
Yeah, 33, beg your pardon, 3 on the actual report. And the deferred payment of $150,000 for the Walnut Avenue Pavilion and the 1.9 million art gallery renovations. And I'm particularly interested in the $150K for the Walnut Pavilion, given that we've got $484 for the Balmoral Hall, and it's worked out to be 1.0 whatever million, 1.3 million. What is that $150K a robust figure?
The short answer is no, because we're still doing that work, but we asked for this carry forward as part of this year's carry forward.
And so so we're carrying forward $150,000. Is the rest of it in the long-term plan for next year?
No, because we don't know what work has to be done yet. We're still working through that.
Can I ask another question? How do we deal with that?
Once we have that information, we'll bring a paper to council. If it's not here before we go to deliberations on the long-term plan, but we'll basically bring a paper to council detailing what needs to be done and what sort of cost and our recommendation of how to fund that.
Because essentially if it comes post long-term plan or year 1, we're going to have a permanent, variance, aren't we, essentially?
For next year, correct. But usually, we can correct, and it will be an overspend if it costs more on the capital project and how we fund that, or if it worked out a lot cheaper, it would be an underspend.
Yeah, I can't see the latter. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
I understand carryovers, deferred capital, when it's capital, like so for water mains that haven't happened because of things, but library books, are they not an asset you produce every year? And just because, so next year will they have, is the sum obviously in the long-term plan for books for next year, so we'd have double the books for next year. So is that, I'm just trying to understand why we would, carryovers are essential in some areas, but not all areas. It's just sort of like the budget's not spent, there's reasons for it, so you didn't need it, therefore you don't spend it next year. It's a good savings you can make.
Sarah might like to comment more specifically, but I imagine the shift to Te Whare Whakatiri has prevented us from our normal buying routine as we've been busy trying to settle in the existing stock. So it's not that we don't need the books, it's that we are unlikely to be able to sensibly spend it given the time that's left in the financial year. This report, this summary on page 33 is trying to give Council a really clear understanding of where we're sitting with capital expenditure as we get closer and closer to year end, rather than getting a surprise come 30 June at why CapEx is under, as it generally is. So this is trying to give you an early heads up. There will be good reasons for each of the projects or items that are in here. In the end, we come back to you usually around September for any carryover funds, and you get, as a council, to decide whether you grant that or not. So this is not seeking your decision on carryovers, it's just highlighting that they will be subject, or highly likely at this stage, to be subject to a request for a carryover from council come September. Ash.
Page 34 and 35. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Land sales were only at 38% of where we wanted to be with not long to go.
Which page you
on? Oh, page 34. So we're sitting at 1.8 where we wanted to be at nearly 5 basically. And that whole capital income went showing 9%, but that's got loans in it, so that alters that. But just, are there any sales on the? I know there's one, but
through the chair, the big one is I think comes through in March, which would have been sales that was commenced later last year. It'll be next month, so you'll see quite a significant improvement. I think about 2.3 sales.
Page 36 and 7. 38, 39. 40, 41. 42, 43. Councillor Wilson.
On page number 40, the Grit Chamber funding reallocation required Sludgebed project, I see that the delay was associated with securing council approval. And so I think that should be taken as a good thing because council looked into it and questioned the doing of it rather than as you can read it that we delayed the process, therefore we've done a bad thing, but I think we've done a very good thing in discussing it and making, have a re-look at it and come back to us just to ensure that it was the best outcome.
Noted. We can look at how we get the manager to retweak the words to recognise that.
44, 45. 46, 47. 48, 49. Oh, Councillor
Hooper. Regarding the ERA and budgeted income relating to the upfront flexi memberships, approximately 400,000.
Page 47.
Yes. Wonder what happened there.
Sarah?
Exactly what it says through you, Mr. Mayor. There was an error in budgeting, and if you were to look back in terms of the revenue of EA Network Centre, it went from 1.8 to 2.2 from memory, 1.6 to 2.2. It was meant to be 1.8, sort of a 200k, and we've continuously over the last, since COVID, sort of had 200k increases in terms of uplift. But this was a larger step than 200,000. It was 600,000, which is hard to achieve. We're trying our best, and we'll look forward to the final outcome 30 June. But we have flagged that because it is an error, and you'll see in the long-term plan that that has been addressed.
48, 49. 50, 51. 52, 53. 54, 55.
Sorry.
Okay, super.
Sorry, back to page 52, forestry. The variance has been caused by under expenditure for the establishment work due to no planting at Reitmans Road following delays with harvesting. So does that mean that there is to be no planting at Reitmans Road? What's happening there?
Through the chair, we will be bringing a paper to council because, as we understand it, council want to make a decision as we harvest each forest on the future of that forest. So we're also favourable because we had more. We finished the harvesting in this current year as well, so we've actually got additional income.
Thanks.
$54, $55. Councillor Wilson.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, page 53. I assume, hopefully I'm correct, that pending the consultation with the public on the Balmoral Hall, that 484 won't be carried over if it goes one way, that will dictate what the consultation does, won't it? The 484,000.
The 484 will be a consequence of the LTP you adopt.
Page 56, 57. 58 and 59. 60, 61. 62, 63. 64 and 65. Noting there's no internal borrowings, all external there. $66 and 67. Just one question on the 67, the receivables, one sitting between 50 to 100k, making progress on that?
I can't recall that one off the top of my head. I know we would have presented that at the last audit and risk, and I will have a look at that and come back to you on it.
Just on progress. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Financial report. Someone like to move that we receive the February 24 financial variance report? Councillor Todd, Councillor Lovett. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you, ladies. Item number 10, the Mayor's report. Questions? I'll move that we receive the Mayor's report. Seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Mellon, all in favour, please say aye. Carried, thank you. This takes us up to James Meagher. Not sure if, and James was going to be in person, but he's currently unwell, so he's going to Zoom in, or Teams in, or come via alternative, but that was at 2:30 and we're sitting at 2:20, so long-serving staff a little bit early. So we might just adjourn for 10 minutes until we get James Meagher to come on. So back at when James Meagher joins. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, to the council meeting, and we have with us our local MP, James Meagher. Welcome, James.
Good afternoon, Mr Mayor and councillors.
Yeah. And you're zooming in today, which is great. Next time we'll probably see you in person, but you've just been slightly unwell, so that's good, keeping the bugs at home. We'll hand over to you and tell us what you're up to, and then we can go for questions if you would like.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors, and thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting of council today to provide you just with a short update from government. Apologies, I cannot be there in person, as we mentioned, due to illness. I thought I'd keep my bugs to myself. And just can I acknowledge, having not been in chambers yet, seeing them finished, can I just acknowledge the great new facilities that I can see on the screen. Really great asset for the council. I just wanted to check, Mr Mayor, that they got the beer fridge installed that you requested.
Not yet, but we'll look into it if we get some government funding.
Okay. Councillors, I just wanted to cover off 3 quick topics today and then take any questions you might have. So first, I just wanted to summarise the government's first 100 days and the actions that we've taken to support local government and councils. Second, I wanted to outline what we've got in plan for the next 100 days and any of the key items that I want you to be aware of coming on stream. And then finally, just an update on specific issues that are relevant to our electorate in our region. Councillors, we have been a busy coalition government. We've delivered on what we promised to do during the campaign, and that was to get things done. And perhaps we've been too busy for some and not busy enough for others, but the New Zealand public gave us a mandate to deliver change and to just get on with it, and so we are. And so the first part of that mandate was to deliver on our 100-day commitments, and so the key milestones in our first quarter that I think are relevant for local government and council have included the draft government policy statement on transport, reflecting the new roads of national significance and our new public transport priorities, and that includes, of course, specific reference to the second Ashburton Bridge as a road of regional significance and also investigation of 4-laning the road from Ralston to Ashburton. We've repealed the ute tax and introduced road user charges to electric vehicles to make a fairer way of accounting for the use on our roads. We are in the process of removing the blanket speed limit reductions and beginning work on replacing the 2022 land transport rule around the setting of speed limits. We have cut costly large projects like the Auckland Light Rail, Harbour Crossing Tunnel and the expensive Kiwi Rail ferries. We've repealed 3 waters, which was done very poorly, we think, by the previous government, and have started work on our own local water done well. We have repealed the RMA reforms and are beginning work on our new fast-track consenting regime. And I see today that Ministers Bishop and Jones have actually called for project applications. So I've sent that announcement through to the Mayor, and hopefully he can circulate that to councillors. It'd be good to see some of our local projects on those lists of fast-track consenting projects. And we have started the suspension of the significant natural areas regulations. And so, as I said earlier, for some people, the pace of change has been too rapid, and for others, not quite rapid enough. And so to address the latter concerns, this week the Prime Minister announced our next 100-day priorities. And so for council, I wanted to highlight a few ones that are relevant for local government. And the first one is, of course, finalising the GPS on transport and freezing fuel tax increases while still delivering significant investment for transport. We're going to be taking cabinet decisions on the Going for Housing Growth plan and the requirements of councils to zone for 30 years of growth. We're going to be releasing our plan to ease restrictions on building materials in order to reduce building costs. We will be taking decisions on measures to increase investment in renewable electricity generation, including, importantly for our region, solar generation. We will be amending the RMA to clarify the application of the National Policy Statement on Freshwater Management in relation to individual consents. And I'll talk more about the Ashburton-Lyndhurst litigation at the end of my update. We will be legislating to suspend requirements for councils to identify and adopt new SNAs or significant natural areas. We'll be signing off on policy to keep agriculture out of the ETS and to start our independent review of the methane science and of our targets to ensure consistency with the goal of no additional warming from agricultural emissions. And finally, we are going to be removing the ban on offshore oil and gas exploration and hopefully opening up opportunities off the coast around the mainland, and we will be establishing the Regional Infrastructure Fund, which should be of interest to significant projects around our area. There are a number of other initiatives in health and education, law and order, and the economy, which the coalition government is also prioritising in the next 100 days, and I'll leave that to councillors to look them up for themselves. And finally, I just wanted to provide a brief update on some of the specific issues relevant to our region and to our electorate. Just broadly on the local government review undertaken by the previous government, the Minister for Local Government is currently considering whether or not the Future for Local Government review fits with his work program, which of course is to restore local voices and preparing local government for a financially sustainable future. As far as I'm aware, decisions are yet to be made on that, but we do remain committed to a localism approach to local government and a shift away from centralisation. On Three Waters, so we are starting to implement our local water done well policy. We can expect 2 bills to be introduced to Parliament this year. The first will be passed by mid-24, and that's going to be the bill which will outline requirements on councils for service delivery now that responsibility for water has returned back to council. It will also provide some transitional economic regulation. The other part that bill will do, it will enable a streamlined process for councils to establish CCOs where they choose to do so. And then the second bill is going to be introduced at the end of the year and pass mid-2025. That's going to outline the long-term requirements for councils' financial sustainability around water infrastructure, provide the full economic regulation regime, and that'll be the bill that provides the new range of financing and funding tools, including a new financially independent CCO. Again, all of those financing tools will be available for councils to adopt as they see fit and as they need for the area. We don't want to go back down the path of telling councils what they should be doing, but we do want to make sure that councils are looking after their infrastructure. That's not such an issue for good, responsible local councils like us, but you can see what happens around the country when councils don't quite keep on top of it. And all of those legislation or legislative changes will be passed by the local elections in 2025. Just on the second bridge, everyone will have seen that the draft GPS specifically identified the second bridge as a road of regional significance, and councillors more than anyone will be familiar with the process around funding that. The NZTA board makes final decisions on project funding through the National Land Transport Program, but the key thing is they must give effect to the GPS, and having the bridge in that is key. Having sort of come to terms with how the whole process works, I'm as frustrated as many are with how long it appears to take. But we do remain committed to our election promise, which was to start construction on the new bridge in our first term. On those local speed limit changes, so Cabinet has agreed to a new land transport rule by the end of 2024 to remove the blanket speed reductions and to allow, or in fact require, variable speed limits around schools. And on some of the roads of national significance, there will be the opportunity to increase speed limits to 110 kilometres an hour. I personally, in the electorate, am committed to the idea that if local communities want speed limit reductions in particular areas, such as through Rakaia and at the Methven hot pools, I will be supportive of that. And I'm aware that the Mayor has written to the Minister around the Methven speed limit reductions and confirming the timing of them going ahead. I followed up with the Minister's office today, and when I get an update from them, I'll make sure it gets through, but I'm hoping you'll hear from him before I do. And then I'm also aware that decisions are being made around some of the requirements that the previous government put in place for wire ropes down state highways. I'm very hopeful that some of the more disruptive proposals will be canned and that maybe they'll be replaced with painted median strips, such as the ones south of Hinds, which actually seem to work quite well in terms of separating traffic. I haven't had an update on the future of the northbound Rakaia Bridge way station, but I'm happy to follow up with the Minister's office in the next few days on that one too. Just on RMA reform, RMA reform continues along. We've repealed the NBE, the National Built Environments Act, and the Spatial Planning Act. We've introduced the fast-track consenting legislation, and as I mentioned before, those project applications are open today. The bill itself is before the Environment Committee. I would recommend anyone who's interested in it make a submission to the committee, and that bill will be implemented, I think, partway through this year. And just finally, a comment on the Ashburton-Lyndhurst litigation that hopefully councillors have been brought up to speed on. That was a judgment that came out last week, I believe. I reviewed it, and I'm pretty worried about the potential implications of it on irrigation in our region. I've been in contact with Rebecca from ALI on possible solutions. I'm thinking of approaching the Minister's office as to whether or not we can implement a legislative fix to clarify that irrigation schemes like this can go ahead, where they provide conditions which will reduce nutrient loading over time, and failing that, I'm also supportive of putting a members bill up to do that, but I can't get too ahead of myself at the moment. But it is a big decision, one which will have a pretty big impact on the region. There are still appeal rights to be heard, so can't cut across that, but it's one that I'm very, very keen to stay on top of. That being said, I'm happy to take any questions that councillors might have in the time we have left, but I just appreciate you giving me the opportunity to provide an update, and hopefully I can do this regularly throughout the year or throughout the term.
Thanks, James. That's a very informative update. Quite a lot of information in there, and obviously reasonably busy up in Wellington, all of you. So it's good to see getting changes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to send that sort of rundown through by email if that'd be helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thanks very much. We'll look forward to that. Councillors, questions? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. G'day, James. The variable speed limits, why the end of the year? Why not sooner?
Good question. I'm not familiar with the process, but that always seems to be the word around government, that you've got to follow the process. But I'm happy to follow that up with the Minister as to why it will take that long. My guessing is that there's some kind of statutory consultation requirements, and given that they are NZTA decisions, there's an extent of independence from ministers as to how much they can direct that. So I will make a note to follow that up for you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Hamish, question.
Good afternoon, James. Hamish Riek here. James, I just wonder whether you can reflect on local water done well in the assertion of councils resolving to structure as they see fit to meet the required standards. In the term that's being discussed in local government circles around orphan councils, i.e. a group of councils might decide to go a particular way, but it leaves someone or a council that's perhaps not viable on its own out in the wind. And if there's to be no orphan councils, then indeed not every council can choose how they might structure local water done well. Have you got any comment on that apparent mismatch?
The way I understand the financing tools that will be available is that CCOs will be one option for councils to go to, where it might make sense for 2 or 3 smaller councils to form a CCO where they share services. I'm thinking of something that might be appropriate for Timaru, Mackenzie and Waimeri, for example. Of course, Ashburton being bounded by 2 rivers probably doesn't have that opportunity. So my understanding of how the financing tools will work will be that there will be other tools available to help councils who may be orphaned like that and who won't have the CCO opportunity. And that may well be through direct government financing, through the ability to implement ratings. And I'm not saying that's something the council will do, but an option there. And maybe direct government grants or underwrites. I'm not too sure exactly what those financing mechanisms will be, but it's something that we're aware of. And it wouldn't be, I can foresee a situation where we're not going to let councils like Ashburton be stranded just because they happen to be well situated in their area in terms of not having really to share services with other councils.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Hello, James. Affordability, we're looking at increasing in our long-term plan our roading budget by 20%, which is quite significant, but that only puts us in a position of spending the same on our roads as we did 2 years ago, which is the effect of inflation, basically. It just seems a horrendous amount of money per kilometre of road to do any repairs. And is there any way we can look at getting better bang for our buck, I suppose, so that if we invest more money, we get a better outcome?
Yeah, it's probably a consequence of this just-in-time patching that we've done for years and years and years. And I mean, our council's in a particularly unique situation where I can't recall the stats off the top of my head. You guys will have them more than I do, but 5th largest roading network, I think, in the country. About 100 years worth of roading works yet to do. I think the things that government can do, everyone's in a constrained fiscal environment, and everyone needs more money to improve and maintain roads. And so what I think government can do is look at what are some of the other cost implications that we're putting on these projects, what are the traffic management and health and safety requirements that we're putting in place. Can we make that easier? Can we do things at scale? One of the things I want to talk to ministers about, and I've raised this with councils before, is have we got the FAR funding? I think that's the terminology for it, but have we got that rating correct for our council, given the amount of tax and GDP which is produced on our local roads? So I don't think there's actually a very simple solution for it, but we have to recognise that maintaining and upgrading our roads does cost money, and it might be that we need to, as a government, invest a little bit more up front so that we can do it right, do it once, rather than having to continually go back. And I'm looking at probably the state highways as an example, but government contribution to local roading is certainly something that I'm keenly aware of.
Good. Just while waiting for another question, just Green Street and the Green Street stream and what evolved over some period of time, and our regional council's role to fix or help with that. They let our community down badly and have since apologised for that. And I think you've made the comment, and as others have as well, local people for local, solve local solutions. There it was, but the RMA or the law or the whatever got in the way. And there were no winners out of it, absolutely none. The fish are all dead, the farmer's unhappy, the community's unhappy, no winners, so RMA review obviously needed.
Yeah, and I think as you mentioned, ECAN have admitted that I think they dropped the ball on that one. I think they realised too late how important or how dire the situation was. So it's one of those ones where when we look at RMA reform, we've got to do it in a way where when it comes to these situations where there are actions that can be taken which are environmentally positive, we are permissive for people to do that. And there's some flexibility around what you can and can't do with your consents when it comes to actually improving environmental outcomes. I think the rigidity in the RMA at the moment doesn't provide for that. If you read the Ashburton-Lyndhurst decision, the lack of clarity about how Section 107 applies to discharge and adverse effects on aquatic life. There are some really, perverse things about the RMA, which is designed to be an environmentally enhancing piece of legislation, which ends up doing the opposite because it stops common sense actions. And the fact that you can make a decision as ECAN to put the water into the stream, albeit late and on a temporary basis, means that there's got to be some way through this legislation that you can do that more readily and more easily and on a more localised level. And I think having something like a catchment group set up to be able to influence those decisions would be better than having to run through 3 or 4 or 5 different channels of bureaucracy. But that's a personal view I hold. I don't think government has a particular stance on that at the moment. But what I have done is I've made sure that the situation has gone through to Chris Bishop as the minister responsible for RMA reform. So he's aware of some of the issues that do arise when the RMA goes wrong, and fingers crossed they won't be repeated in the replacement legislation.
That's good to hear. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. James, road user charges for electric cars, are you happy where you've landed? I know that everybody has to pay for potholes and what have you. We've talked about climate change here today. And should there be some sort of reward for, emission reduction? Is there any flexibility in where you guys have landed, or are you happy? The electric car salespeople are screaming out saying this is killing them.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things on that. The rewards for emissions reductions are hard because transport emissions are covered by the ETS. So as soon as you start rewarding people through a mechanism other than reduced emissions costs through the ETS levy, then you start interfering with market signals, and if you subsidise emissions reductions in one area, all it does is leave a gap in another area to be filled by other polluters. So I'm not generally, and I think the government's not generally in favour of those kinds of subsidies. I think we can have a bit of faith that the ETS, by setting a cap on emissions that will reduce over time, will hopefully get the job done. The second part of that is, am I happy where we landed with the charges on electric vehicles and I guess PHEVs as well? Pretty much, yeah. I think it's a hard call to make because you're not going to get it right for every single vehicle user. And the reintroduction of road users onto electric vehicles and onto hybrids is a transitional step towards road users on every vehicle. So I think what we'll get to eventually is a situation where you have road user charges on every vehicle. You no longer have excise tax on petrol, and the best way to measure the impact on roads is by essentially measuring the size of your vehicle and how far you've travelled. And that'll be the way that we can get probably the best sort of maintenance on our roads. And there is also a benefit for those who do buy electric vehicles, and that is that I rented one up in the North Island a couple of weeks ago, and I think I didn't put any petrol in it, obviously, because it was an EV, and I think by the time I dropped it off, it had lost about 2 or 3% charge, and that was without charging. So they're incredibly cheap to run once you get them. They're expensive to buy, so there are incentives there to have EVs. I don't think we'll be putting many more subsidies or incentives in place beyond the ETS.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions? No, I think they're looking for a cup of tea, James, but thanks for joining in today. It was great, very informative. We'll do it again soon, as your diary permits. We've got some time scheduled, I think. So, yeah, great update, so thanks very much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
No, I appreciate your time, councillors.
Next item on our agenda is welcome to new and long-serving staff. Sarah.
Fantastic. We have, I'm very pleased to introduce a number of new staff, some staff who've reached some significant milestones with Council, and clearly some people that are supporting their significant milestones from within their teams, so hence the group of staff behind me. So firstly, apologies for my back to you. First of all, in terms of new staff, I'd like to introduce Jason McTeer. He is our water ranger, and he is waving at the back. And if you don't mind just standing up, that'd be fantastic so that the councillors can see you. We've got Georgie Johnson, and she's a gym instructor at EANC, at EA Network Centre. We've got Sarah Colcord, and she's our new events advisor. We've got Alethea Ranpuruwali, and she is our financial accountant. We've got Aaron Rose, who's our GIS analyst, and we've also got Christian Villagran, who's another GIS analyst. So these are the new staff I'd like to introduce you to today. And in terms of long-standing service, there are 2 people I'd like to recognise today, and if you can please just go forward when your name is mentioned to see Hamish and the Mayor, that would be fantastic. The first of which is Tanya Paddock. Tanya has been at ADC for 5 years now. She has successful career at ADC, and as she is our legal counsel. This includes working and being involved in many interesting property transactions. She's our privacy officer. She assisted with taking over an acting position as property manager, which was very much appreciated by our new group manager of business support. And believe it or not, but she also knows just about everything you can possibly know about Lake Hood. She is the key project coordinator from that perspective, and has great working relationships with a large number of people, knows about water testing and sampling and things well beyond the normal brief of legal counsel. So yeah, thank you very much, Tanya, for all your great work, and yeah, we want at least another 5 years. Thank you. And I'd also like to ask that Mahara Hislop walks up to Hamish and the Mayor. Mahara has been recognised for 10 years service to ADC. Initially, Mahara joined our team as a part-time parking officer in March 2014, and then she enjoyed a split role of parking officer and information management assistant. And then following the joint role, she then became a full-time position in information management. She was key to our implementation of our SharePoint document record system. And since then, she has now become a senior advisor of the information management team. She's got a large knowledge in both the EDRMS system, the physical file management system, records retention and disposals, and she has absolutely adapted and learnt her skills while working with others within council and really excelled. So we'd just like to say thank you very much, and yeah, long may it continue.
Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations to the 2 long-serving staff. Well done, and to all the new starts, welcome. And may your time here be happy and productive. So we'll break now. We've finished everything in open meeting too, have we? Should we move into committee? Yeah, we'll break for a cup of tea in a few seconds. First of all, we'll move into committee, and someone like to move. Councillor Ellis, Councillor Lovett, move seconded. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So we'll adjourn the meeting now for a cup of tea, and you're all more than welcome to join us, have a chat, and let's get to know each other a little bit better. Thank you.